Welcome to the Spice of Life podcast, where we take bold risks, build real wealth, and use money as a tool for freedom and legacy. I'm Luke Spicer, and each week we uncover the principles of ownership, independence, to business and life. Whether you're an investor, entrepreneur, or tradesperson, this show is about creating freedom today and legacy for tomorrow. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Spicer Life podcast. I'm your host, Luke Spicer. Today on the show, I've got Quinton Carlin from Legacy Wealth Management. Quinton, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, doing very well. Thanks for having me. It's been great connecting with you over the last few weeks and looking forward to diving in even deeper.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of funny how life can just connect people. And we were talking before we even went live that for the longest time, I actually thought you were a real estate investing guy, and then I found out you actually work with insurance and other products like that to help preserve and grow wealth for your clients. And I was like, okay, well that still kind of makes sense to me as I see the posting. But what did it for me was that I was seeing you posting your mom is selling a place in Edmonton and you're moving her out to BC where you live, and that was why I just saw this post and I was like, oh, he's a real estate guy. But no,
Yeah,
just
well,
moving family.
it's funny when I moved back to Canada, I was abroad for 10 years and I moved back in probably the worst time to ever start a new business or career was, beginning of COVID, which was wild. I was looking at either getting my real estate license or going the financial services route. And I've always been being in Vancouver, real estate is huge here. But I looked at it being, hey, not everyone's looking to buy or sell a property like this month, but
Yeah.
everyone has a bank account that they're looking to save more and grow it. So I just looked at the bigger ocean. Speaking of oceans, I don't know, this is a video podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a little tour. So this is the big ocean I'm looking at. So I just saw that this is a bigger ocean to serve and help people with. And so I've always been interested in finance, and I think that the probably one and only skill I have. I'm not the best, math or numbers guy, but I'm good with seeing trends. Um, I got into e-commerce really early in like 2005 before everyone else started selling courses and programs and stuff like that. So I did that for a few years. And then I was in Asia for 10 years. I got into crypto really quite early when Bitcoin, I think my first podcast ever I did was telling people to buy Bitcoin when it was $900.
Dang.
Um, so I've just been like following trends and seeing things and moving forward. What got me really kind of quote unquote red pilled was when in Canada here, the government started shutting people's bank accounts down. And I was like, oh, wow. So all the money that you have in your bank account could just be frozen for posting something online or doing something in public. So I went down the rabbit hole of asset protection and how to properly preserve and protect wealth through a number of vehicles that most people don't really know anyone can have access to.
Right. Yeah. So um just to back up a little bit more, you said you were in Asia for 10
Yeah.
years before you moved back to Canada.
Yeah.
What were you doing there then mostly?
Yeah, so after the Olympics in 2010 here in Vancouver, I got an invitation to help basically open up and launch a international Canadian school in South Korea, which was a 6 month contract slash commitment. So went out to South Korea for 6 months and ended up staying in Asia for 10 years. Uh,
Wow. Out of
yeah,
school. Out of school.
initially it was a school, and I didn't really realize how big of a business education was, right? Like here in Canada, we kind of take it for granted, but at this school, parents were paying 30 grand a year to send their kid to kindergarten to draw. And I was just like, oh wow, there's like massive opportunity. Like Asia academics is like there's nothing more important. Like parents just spend money on their kids' education to get them into these feeder schools that can allow their children to go to high school in Canada or the US and then continue on to university. So that was my first exposure to like the international education scene. And then I got basically an offer to become a university professor there. So yeah, I did that for a number of years and I had a great lifestyle and set up there. Um, and then it ended
What were
abruptly.
you teaching in university there?
I was teaching a business class, a public speaking class, and freshman English.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So just yeah, it was just totally unexpected. Doors kept on opening and I kept on walking through them.
Yeah. And then what made you finally decide to move back to Canada?
Yeah, just when COVID went from China to Korea, it was like the second country affected, and all the flights that were going out of Korea were getting turned back. I actually packed up my whole life after 10 years in 4 days and got on the last plane allowed out of Korea. So it was just like a movie, man. I packed up everything and moved back here and restarted life. Yeah,
And the reason you left was just because of the
yeah,
commotion and pandemony that was existing, and you're like,
yeah.
I got to get the hell out of here, and I can, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking back, I would have never probably left, but just like the chaos of like my university shutting down, my visa ended, expired. I was like, well, I don't really want to get trapped here. But coming back, I was like probably one of like the most anti-COVID people, being like, oh, this was just a total like psyop of just mass hysteria. And I hook, line, and sinker fell for it. But that really woke me up when I kind of realized how things were really, under the surface, and
Yeah.
kind of became a little bit more outspoken against it. But you know
And
what?
so then when you came home then, like and you came, did you went back to Vancouver? Like that's where you flew home and stayed?
I flew to Edmonton. My parents, I grew up in Edmonton. I had never lived in Edmonton since I was 17 years old. I had a basketball scholarship out east and then moved out to Vancouver for 5 years, went abroad for 10 years, came back to Edmonton to be with my parents. I stayed there for 2 months and then I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna go back to Vancouver and restart my life because that's what I did and moved. It's funny because when I was living here, I showed you the view earlier. I was living a block away from where I live now on the beach. And 10 years later, I came back moving a block down from where I used to live. So it's back full circle. And I feel like I never even left almost. Like yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. And so then when you came out to back to Vancouver, is that when you got into the insurance game and did your license and that kind of stuff? That's sort of the shift that you went down?
Actually, no. What happened was, as I mentioned, I was involved heavily in e-commerce and kind of the whole online business world early or like 2005 to 2010-ish. I ended up reaching out to a couple guys that are like really big names in that space, that I knew have grown really big businesses. And one guy saw that he was looking to kind of, bring on advisors essentially to do remote sales, high ticket remote sales. So I said, hey, let's collaborate. And when I first started in 2020, that organization was doing about $100,000 in sales a month. And then 3.5 years later, almost 4 years later, when I exited to do what I do now, we were doing about $8 million a month in sales. So
In
it just
e-commerce stuff.
yeah, yeah. So it went, and we won like an Inc. 5000 fastest growing e-learning company in the world. Um, and yeah, I went from having like 4 or 5 sales remote closers to we maxed at 200.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
What
just
company was that?
the awards behind me here. If you know ClickFunnels, we were also the number one ClickFunnels affiliate. It's called Legendary Marketer, David Sharp. He grew a huge company in 2013 called Empower Network.
Okay.
And Legendary was just right time, right place, and it just went nuts because we were basically teaching people how to go from offline business owners like brick and mortar, how
Yeah.
to go online with like funnels and autoresponders and affiliate offers and stuff like that. Just like it just blew up, man. It was just like the most insane growth I've ever seen, and
Huh.
was just blessed to be in the right place with the right relationship to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and then I mean, and that taught you then like a lot of stuff online and
Yeah.
marketing and doing that kind of stuff. And then what made you leave though?
Yeah, basically my accountant, he kind of saw how well I was doing, which is remote sales. He's like, "Hey, you've been doing commission," because he just saw my numbers and he's like, "You've been doing straight sales, 100% commission for 4 years." He's like, I have this tax brokerage as I knew, but he's like, why don't you come and do the financial side of it with like the insurance and investments? And I kind of hit the glass ceiling with what I was doing with like the remote sales. And I wanted my own book of business. I wanted to kind of go more into like actual financial planning, wealth advisory, and I wanted to learn these things for myself, right? Because I find in school it's funny because when I graduated university, I was doing my practicum out of school and I reached out to the school board and I said, hey, you know what? I have this idea to upgrade and update the school curriculum to teach more stuff about entrepreneurship, about personal development, about personal finance, about how to get a mortgage, about how to invest and plan for retirement, all these things that are life, the curriculum I pitched was called Life Lessons.
Yeah.
And it was the craziest thing at this board meeting I had with like the school board. Everyone around the table was like, we agree. It does need to be updated from trigonometry and chemistry and algebra to like real life skills. And I said, well, why don't we do it? And they just said that there's so much red tape in the school system that we just can't go in and rehaul it like that. I'm like, so you're actively aware that everything that's taught in school isn't at the highest benefit to the student, but you're not going to do anything about it. And they said, yep. And then that's when I left becoming a teacher. I was in school to become a teacher. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to participate in this curriculum. I'm going to go out and teach things like I'm teaching people now, right? Asset
Yeah.
protection, financial management.
Yeah, it's actually kind of it is nuts when you think about schools. I've been asked a few times to come talk. I have an acquaintance who's a teacher at the high school, and he teaches the finance class. And we chatted one night at an event, and he's like, "Would you come? Your approach to stuff is very like unorthodox. It's really not what we teach in school. And like, would you come talk to the kids and do like a presentation?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And it's interesting because of course I'm not getting any clients out of talking to kids, right? Like high school kids. But I thought, well, you just never know. I'll go and who knows whose life I can impact or whatever. The one time I talked, one of the other teachers sat in just to like listen to this unique opportunity, and then she became a client. So it was like
Yeah,
kind of worth it, right? She like heard things and she's like, I want to talk to you about, this and this and this. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to.
yeah,
And but yeah, when you think about like the school, and then there's other teachers that would come in and like listen and they'd kind of like roll their eyes and walk away. And I'm like, okay, well, you're in the position you're in because of the decisions you make. So roll your eyes all you want, but like
yeah,
doing a hell of a lot better than you are financially. So,
yeah,
there's more to life than that, but it's, there's a thing. So yeah, good for you for wanting to, show people a different way, through
yeah. I
life,
mean,
right? Because so many people just repeat the same thing. I was talking to another guy on a different show and episode, and he was talking about I'd asked him because he does like mentoring and coaching, right? And he's well, he was in on the island, but he's actually lives in LA now, and he runs a coaching program online. And I said, what's the three biggest mistakes that you see people make that come to you, like where you could like help? And so he's like, oh, that's a good question. And he said, and I actually wrote it down, and he said, like, well, get help, like get a mentor, somebody that's doing what you want to do. um Audit your circle, and you're probably with people that are holding you back. And then the other one was like have a plan and just like execute it. Whether you feel like getting up and going to the gym, you need to go to the gym and you need to do
yeah,
these certain things. And it's amazing how often people don't follow a plan. They're just
totally.
like they follow how they feel, and then you're like, well, these are the results that you're getting, and
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that you said, get a mentor. Like mentorship for me was the game changer. Like in 2000, I'll be totally real with you. In 2005, I was forced into getting into e-commerce because my life was at rock bottom. So I went through a really, really hard separation. I was a young dad at a very early age, going through the whole Canadian court system here, fighting for every, opportunity to be with my son, and that was when I was kind of looking for mentorship and getting things on the right track, and just being thrown into this unforeseen scenario that most guys go through in their 40s and 50s and 60s. I was going through in my early 20s,
Yeah.
but I got some really good mentors that got me into personal development, got me into like sales, marketing, and things like that. And I think if I was to be a young guy or girl, I would just find the industry. Like if you want to get it, you thought that I was in real estate earlier. The funny thing is my son's getting into real estate, right? Like he's in California. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy for him because being 21 years old, knowing what you want to do, get into real estate. I just think that finding people that have the results that you want and building those relationships and adding value to their businesses, you're gonna, as Tony Robbins says, put decades into days, right? Like, don't have to go through all the challenges and mistakes other people do. Just like learn from the people that you want the results of, and that's the recipe right there.
It's funny that you just said Tony Robbins. I was thinking, oh, this sounds like the Tony Robbins. I had one of his sales guys call me today because I went to that Unleash the Power Within like
Oh
weekend. I
yeah,
had like registered, but I
yeah,
didn't attend it because I was too busy with work and I'd already scheduled it twice, and I just was like, I can't go, and I never did. And they called me to sell some other program, and I was like, I'm good. I didn't go. Well, what made you come? And they're going through the whole thing, and I'm like, look, like I get it. He's one of the greatest
mhm,
motivational guys, around. And it was just interesting talking to this sales guy, and I just said, like, I'm in sales. So I'm listening to him and I'm like, bro, you're reading a script. Like I didn't say it, but I was like, I could just tell.
yeah,
The more that I do that and the more that I focus on it, you can really start to pick up when people are just rolling through, a script, or where they're really trying to build rapport with you and really listen
yeah,
to you and those kind of things. But yeah, mentoring is so big. I mean, I come from the fight world, and so obviously you have a coach and you have people that, can kind of see your blind spots, but far too often guys just like go through life and don't have anybody. And unfortunately, they do have mentors. They just don't think of them as mentors, and that's again then your circle that you're surrounded with, right? You're looking up, you're taking life advice from guys that maybe don't have a life you want, and you're not even
yeah.
realizing how bad it's, getting. And I did, there's a lot of people that get involved in network marketing and MLMs and that kind of stuff. And that's why I was asking like what MGA you were involved in, because a lot of insurance is done on that, recruit model. And the product is kind of secondary, right? Where you are, the product and the client comes first, I believe, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've been getting pitched by everyone with everything for a long time. I think like what you said about, well, yeah, let me just address that question first. So yeah, I'm with Canada's pretty much largest independent brokerage that isn't attached to any team building or recruiting at all. It's like, hey, you have your own book of business. Canada Life is a big carrier that I work with, Manulife, BMO Wealth, Equitable, like you have your own essentially brokerage and firm. So that's what I'm building out right now. That's also going into things far and beyond just, insurances like investments, getting a will, right? A lot of people don't have wills. How to do estate planning with inheritance. It doesn't all go to the government and CRA. It's just putting people in the right vehicles and funds that can do succession planning. So there's just been so much I've really learned, and now going forward, like, and looking at my background genetics, like my uncle was one of Jim Patterson's finance executives. Like Jim Patterson's like
Oh,
a
cool. Okay.
eighth wealthiest person in Canada. My uncle was like his right hand man for like a long time.
And
He actually just sent me a nice letter of endorsement after the last minute. Jim's 96 years old and he still goes to the office every day, Monday to Friday. It's
okay.
crazy.
Is your
Um,
uncle still work with them?
my uncle unfortunately passed away
Oh,
playing golf. Yeah, he was on a golf course in the States with his family. Avid golfer, just went out the best possible way. But yeah, Jim remembered my uncle when I met with him, and so did his secretary. So yeah, just kind of growing up in that environment of hearing about successful business owners, I was always like, oh, that's really cool, and wanted to be involved with that. But yeah, so yeah, independent advisor, my own business, book of clients, personal customized plans, no weird sales stuff or recruiting stuff, just straight up financial
yeah.
planning. Yeah,
Yeah, and then actually having a focus on the client and making that, not making your next client your next like lead,
yeah,
or
yeah,
bigger than that, which like I can appreciate it on one hand. Like I've talked lots about this, and I think network marketing gets a bad rap. I really do, because of certain individuals that get involved with it, right?
right,
And I have this like old acquaintance that was like really big with a fitness network
yeah,
marketing one, and he lost like I don't even know, like 140 pounds, like just and he just was like telling everybody what he does, like I'm just like doing this, I've changed this. He started going to the gym, and he changed his life. And throughout doing that, obviously, he's like started signing people up and, doing the whole body transformation thing. And then he got to a point where he's like, he realized he's making so much money that he could like leave his full-time oil field job.
Wow.
And then his whole pitch changed, and he was like, "I can make you a millionaire," and all these kind of things. And his whole business like dried up, and he like
Yeah.
couldn't figure out why it like got so bad. And I was like, because you went from talking about what the product does for people and how it will help them to
Right.
talking about the behind, like what every other company does when it gets involved in that. Like, look how much money you can make. And then when people come on and they're not making the money, then they're discouraged and then they stop. But like
Yeah.
that's not why the company was successful. It was successful because you told your story. It's what made me want to take it because I was like, dang, you lost all this weight. As soon as you started talking to me about making money, I was like, get out of here. I got a good job. I make good money. I don't need to make money selling a shake.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same with pretty much almost any of them is that they
Yeah.
they take this shift, right? And somebody starts to talk instead of like what the product is and how it'll help you and those kind of things.
Right.
Which is what like you're doing, right? You're like talking
Yeah.
about the actual product and how to build and preserve. And if I'm going to sit down with you and learn about legacy planning, I'm not like, is this guy going to pitch me to come work for him? Because I hate that.
Yeah.
Like
Of
I
course.
love what
Yeah.
I do. I don't want
Me
to go
too.
work for somebody else. Hey, you're doing really good at what you're doing, Luke. Want to come try this?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 100%. And going back to the comment you made about sales before, I think what makes people that are authentic so good with sales, not using scripts, is because, as you said, you can feel when someone's being inauthentic with you and that's reading a script from something that's just not resonated with them because you can tell that it's not coming across being genuine. So I think one of the reasons why I was getting these awards for like being one of the top consistent sales producers of these different companies um, is because I've never used a script in my life. I've never followed like a pattern of going through all this NLP stuff or, how to persuade people. I'm just being real with people, being like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. I want to learn more about you. And if there's a way for me to help, great. If not, I'm going to tell you, right? Like, and I think that's what people are hungry for in just our business world is just being genuine, upfront, and transparent. Like one of the first things I do when I meet with clients is I say, hey, let me show you my portfolio so you can tell that I'm not just talking the talk, but I've walked the walk. And these are the returns I've gotten. These are the plans that I've gotten. These are my tax strategies that I do for myself and my corporation. If this makes sense for you, hey, I could be happy to set it up for you. But if not, that's okay too. It's just kind of like the same thing with dating. Nobody wants some super like attached, like psycho that's like chasing them down all the time. Like, it's just an abundance mentality that like there's just so many people to serve and help. There's no need to be attached to really anyone or anything. Um, yeah, that's my point that I wanted to circle back on like the sales scripts that you mentioned.
yeah, well, and I mean, especially if you're in something like if you've got a business that's paying you like, recurring monthly or annually, right? You only need so many clients. And if you've got a business like mine, there's no recurring in investing business, right? I mean, we're just selling silver and gold right now. I mean, we do some real
Yeah,
estate investing that'll pay, long term differently in that regard. But right now, for my own, it's just I get paid on a commission for selling. And I've talked to guys in the other space of wealth building or insurance, and they're like, oh, we got to work so hard to keep getting new clients. And I'm like, but that's the best part about what I do and how I educate and help people is that I don't have to work hard to get clients. My clients are happy to share what I've done for them with their
right.
family and friends. I get people calling me every day for new advice or purchases or whatever, right? And not everybody's going to be my client. And I'm
Yeah,
okay with that, right? I don't need lots. I kind of was saying that to the owner and my mentor that sort of crossed this threshold about 2 months ago. It felt like where I just really I didn't have to do it every day. I didn't have to like be on the phone like calling people like, "Hey, did you see that video I sent you?" Or, whatever. It's kind of like I'm getting
Yeah.
emails and calls like, "Hey, I did see that video. I did listen to your podcast and I want to talk to you. I want more information." And I was like, "Holy cow, it's finally happened." We've reached this like centrifugal
Big point.
force where it just keeps refilling all the time. And I'm like, this is amazing. And that's what led me down to being able to want to do this. I was like, if I can meet with some really cool, authentic people and showcase what they do and help them, with clients and meet new people, then it'll be great, right? Paper money's losing power, but real money, it's been trusted for 5,000 years. When banks print, inflation steals, and markets shake, gold and silver stay solid. Don't wait for headlines, own what's real. Visit learnwealthcycles.com and start building freedom with physical silver and gold today. So tell me more, like what are some of the things you do and look at for like legacy planning and things for
Yeah.
your clients? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, in Canada, it's no secret that there's a lot of taxes here, either on the business side or personal side, and looking at planning generationally to pass down those corporate wealth, savings, investments. A lot of people don't know that when someone passes away, it's called deemed disposition. So at death, their whole estate gets frozen, and then CRA and probate comes in. Probate is basically a nightmare for people that's an executive or executor for any kind of person who passes away to go through the estate sales, and there's lawyers that are involved. So I do a lot of stuff that bypasses that. So I always tell people, hey, if you've got parents that are still alive, it's really worth a quick conversation with me to just see where their assets are and how they're currently held. Because if they're not properly structured, the CRA is going to be an inheritance um, grantor instead of the family beneficiaries that it should be going to. And it's as simple as like, hey, if you're in mutual funds, insurance companies have great investment funds that, for a large part, outproduce the mutual funds, but offer the succession planning is getting passed down instead of taking years and years through probate to get passed down, it'll be settled in 2 weeks, right? And it's as simple as moving a TSFA or an RSP, current holding investments, into this other special fund that 99% of people don't even know exists. And the reason they don't know exists is banks will never tell you about it because they don't make money on it. So if you look at the bank's business model, it's just a AUM, right? Like assets under management. So they're never going to say, hey, take your savings and your investments at our bank and put it into this insurance company because it's not in their best interest. Financial advisors don't really do it because they don't get compensated as high as they would on like stocks or mutual funds and things like that, right? So it's just knowing people's biggest expense in life is just not knowing what they should know, right? And that there's
Yeah.
other options out there. So I basically do a lot of education. I do complimentary seminars, complimentary discovery calls to just look at basically portfolio assessments and say, hey, if you move this over here, your child is going to get this in 2 weeks instead of years. So I do a lot of kind of planning around that, but also too, just a lot of people never did an investor profile risk analysis, right? Like they went to the bank one time 7 years ago, and their financial advisor at the bank, who now is gone, never really followed up and did a proper analysis of their financial goals. So they're in these really low producing funds that are getting maybe 4, 5, 6%, because
Your
they're in like
money.
they're in some conservative fund that's also getting taxed at 50% too annually if it's not held in the right, tax-free growth fund. And so I just say, hey, let's just look at rebalancing what you have now to something that is going to grow a lot more and compound, because you might want to be more aggressive with your allocations if you're younger. Or if you're older, there's also things like people just think that GICs are the only guaranteed investment fund out there, which they're not. You can set up one of these insurance funds that will guarantee all the principal, but can still give you 25% returns, like a number of providers have been, returning through this crazy bull market we've been on. So people that are in GICs have just mass out on crazy wealth building opportunity just because they didn't know there's other options out there.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing with people not knowing what's available. And then on the flip side of that, you've got people that are compensated and make money from selling something, so they
Yeah,
want to steer clients to a specific thing.
right.
Did I understand you right too that you said that like a lot of what you do has less in fees for you, like you're compensated less than if you were to sell something like a IUL or a
Right.
those kind of
Yeah.
like you make less per moving
Yeah.
clients funds. See, and I have mad respect for that because then knowing that you have to serve a lot of people to make a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people go the opposite way. They're like, well, I want to make $1 million off this one person, so I'm gonna just like give them this plan that's like massive and huge, and then talk about how awesome it is. And it's like it's not, they're very unique. And one of the things that I've always struggled with insurance-based products is that so much content that we see in the world today comes out of America. And
Yeah.
most of the plans and stuff in America are not structured the same way here.
Right.
Like most of those infinite banking strategies that you hear so many people talk about, they're not structured the same way in Canada, and they compensate the agent a lot more. And it's frustrating because I'm like, oh man, I just saw this video. I'll have to share it to you. It was with one of the race car drivers, like from the Bush family, right? And they
Yeah.
had just lost, like,
Right.
they got a
I saw that.
lawsuit, like eight
Eight
million
million, $8
bucks
million
or something
dollars.
like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. And I mean, now granted, you went into it, you signed it, you should do your own due diligence and work. But like when you're working with somebody and you're just like, oh, like I trust these people and I think this will be good. And then you find out 10 years later or whatever that this plan wasn't structured the way it should be. And that person you were working with is probably not even there. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh God, these poor people, right? So, um, yeah, that's probably been one of the things that I go up against the most is like, well, why would I invest in this product because I could get this and I could become my own bank? And I'm like,
Right.
well, with silver and gold, you truly are your own bank, and
Yeah.
we actually can borrow against it. So it's like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
things that you can do that people again aren't aware of, and I don't talk about it to everybody because it doesn't apply to everybody. But once the ones that it makes sense for, then it's like, hey, let's get you started. Let's do something,
Yeah.
something different, right? So I think
Well,
that's commendable, right? I want to say that to you that that's a big thing.
I don't know if you see this here. This is kind of a
Okay.
rosary. So,
Yeah.
I'm Catholic. I go to church every week, and the golden rule is treat others as you would want to be treated yourself, right? Like, I look at it this is being transparent. I show people my own book of what I do and try to be as transparent as possible and just say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I would not tell somebody to do something that I'm personally not doing myself.
Yeah.
But also, everyone has different goals and plans and risk profiles. But I just try and be as upfront and honest because that's the golden rule I've been born into my whole life. And I'm from Alberta, came from very meager, humble beginnings, and I still am, right? I'm in the building phase right now. Like I'm not like, living in this mansion or anything like that. I'm just out doing what I should be doing every day, building it the right way with integrity and just helping provide great service. And also too, like I'm just a sponge. I go to as many conferences and networking events to learn from people that, like we talked about earlier, mentorship, right? Like I spend a lot of time and resources to learn from the best. And it's just probably being a sports athlete, I want to be the best. So I've got this eternal like drive to produce at a high level. And that's probably a good thing for people that end up working with me.
How important is self-education to you?
Everything, everything.
Yeah.
Like I don't watch TV, bro. I don't listen to music. All I'm doing is listening to audiobooks, podcasts, going to networking events. I went to two events yesterday, right? Like, um, I'm just constantly evolving and hungry to learn as much as possible. A for my own, self-interest to be have an edge, but also too on the advisory side to just be ahead of the curve. And that's one thing I said earlier. I feel like I've always just been ahead of the curve with e-commerce, with crypto, with business because I am so like obsessively dialed into it. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, and it's a big thing. For me, like continuing to learn. Everybody always says like I was at the gym this was a while ago, and I think I was doing like, yeah, I was doing lat pull down, and the guy across was doing like the seated row. and these kids were like loud, like they were like teenage, like 18, 19,
Sure.
and they're talking, but they all got these headphones on, and they're all like talking over their headphones to each other, and they're loud. They don't even realize it. And I look over at this guy, and he's looking at them, and he's like shaking his head, and he's annoyed, right? Because it's like so loud. And he walks around the thing, and I kind of looked at him, I was like, "Oh, look at you being a psychopath with no headphones on." And he's like, "What'd you say to me?" And I said, "Well, you don't have headphones on." I said, "You must be some kind of a crazy person." And he looked at me, and I don't have them either, right? My son's always like, "Dad, how do you work out with no headphones?" And I was like, "Man, when I used to fight, we'd have to go for runs, and everybody would run with headphones on because it would help motivate them." And I'm like, if I couldn't self-motivate myself while I was running to get through it, there was no headphones or music to pump me up when I was fighting. And it just always came that way. So sometimes like I don't like wireless headphones, something with the
Yeah.
the so I always
Yeah.
get a wired in ones, and so it's not really that conducive when you're working lifting weights to move around with them. But I listen to audiobooks a lot
Yeah.
when I would work out, or when I would even like I'll run with an audiobook, and people are like, "That's crazy," and I'm just like, "Why? I don't
Yeah.
need it. It's just because I want to like put something in my brain that's going to help me grow." What are two of your favorite books? Do you read? Or listen to
Yeah.
audiobooks, I suppose. So
Yeah, man. Like I said, my life was rock bottom in 2005, 2006. And then New Year's Day, I'll never forget this. New Year's Day, I discovered the secret, the law of attraction. And
yeah,
that's what brought me into like heavily the personal development. So I would say the secret, the law of attraction was number one game changer for me. Um, and then number two. I would probably say maybe even the Bible, man. Like just the wisdom. Like I feel like all I just had a really interesting call with one of my accountability partners. We talk every week, and it was so interesting that he recently got exposed to faith, and he was asking me all these questions that for me were like second nature, like just who Joseph and Mary is. I'm like, oh well, that's Jesus's parents. Like I couldn't really fathom that someone doesn't really know the history of that, but I was kind of walking him through it. And then, this is a few weeks ago, and he's been coming back to me every week, being like, man, this is just like the personal development stuff. Like all these things I've been reading in these personal development guru books is kind of based on this theory of the Bible and stuff. I'm like, yeah, kind of. So I would say, yeah, The Secret and probably the Bible.
did you ever look deeper into the secret and find the ancient manuscript that she talked about reading that she wrote
Oh,
that book from?
no, am I, is it going to be the Bible?
No, well, I wonder because they don't actually talk about it, but I
Okay.
I actually think it's my favorite book, is The Science of Getting Rich.
Oh
And
yeah, Bob
it
Proctor.
was written 120 years ago, right? So
Oh, was that Bob Proctor's book or was
no,
that
no, 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 no. It was
Science of
written
Getting
in like
Rich?
1905.
Oh,
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill?
No, Wallace D.
Oh,
Wattles.
Wallace D. Wallace. Yeah, 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 that's right. I have
And
heard of
it's
that.
like,
I
and
have
he
heard of that.
basically talks about infinite intelligence
Yeah.
and that, and like, your thoughts become your words
Right.
and become your life and that kind of stuff. And I just it really resonates with me. I listen to it like multiple times a year. Like I just have it
Yeah.
on Audible, but it's funny, I have it right in front of me on the desk because I'm reading it right now with a group of
Yeah.
guys. And it's like it's life-changing. And as you get a deeper understanding of it, it's there. I mean, yeah, the Bible has a lot of good stuff in it, obviously, too. I do find you said the Think and Grow Rich. Did you say that? Like
Yeah.
just right then? Then Napoleon Hill has a sequel to that book called Outwitting the Devil. Did you ever
Yeah.
read that?
Yeah. Yeah. A long time ago.
It's a good book too, because that's like talking about all the things that actually trap people, right? Because a lot of these books, I think that people overlook is that they read all the things that they're supposed to do, but they don't really address like what happens when we get distracted, or what happens when somebody around you tells you like that won't work, and then you're like, yeah, I guess it won't work, and then you just go off, and it's like this book addresses it, which I really like, as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, so that's good though. But The Secret is she also had the sequel called The Magic, right? It was another book written after.
Okay.
And I like that one. It's a 30-day, I think it's 30 days, a 30-day plan. So you
Mm,
like do something every day, right? Like to
okay.
like progress, and it starts to talk about like, yeah, writing like gratitude down, daily,
right,
finding a rock or some memento that you can like use and hold at night to like
right.
trigger, your thoughts and
Feelings, yeah,
all these different things. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's such a good book. It's neat with doing some of these like podcast interviews with
yeah,
people and asking. I've been asking everybody what their books are because, I just like to know.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I wish that we were exposed to these kind of curriculums and content in school, right? Like, imagine how the world would be different in that instead of learning about trigonometry, we learned about, the power of compounding interest to start investing at your early ages, right? Like I always tell new parents, say, hey, the best thing you can do is just contribute $50 a month to your kids, savings plan. And it's just crazy how that can turn out.
Well,
But
and I mean, let's be honest, the reason school is the way it is
yeah,
because it's designed for a certain
yeah,
outcome. And
yeah,
the outcome that school produces is exactly how it's designed to be. So it's never going to change.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. And you know what? Like we had a good first conversation talking about BNI, right? Like a lot of people don't even know that there's those groups that exist, and just being part of groups of growth and development and entrepreneurship and yeah, we both had, really interesting experiences with those relationships within them.
Yeah. I mean, you did mention that. I want to talk about that too. You gave a presentation at your chapter the other day or the other week, and you brought visitors. How many visitors did you bring to your chapter on one
Oh,
day?
the BNI story, yeah. So I was new. I was maybe 6 months into my membership, and every year you get to do a 10-minute annual presentation. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna really, promote this day that I get to do my talk. Not thinking anything of it. So I think I ended up bringing either 24 or 26 guests, just thinking that that's what everyone did or should be doing. And then the president of my chapter was just like, this is like, we didn't have enough seats for everybody.
Of course
So,
not.
so they're just like, this is outrageous. Later I found out like that I think broke and shattered like the record of the entire organization that's been around for decades and has like 500,000 members around the world. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a surprise.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think, yeah, I think you should be showcased by Ivan himself. Ivan Meisner should be having a chat with you and talking because I think, we talked about that and like, I hope BNI works out for you. We're both people that love to help
Yeah,
others and connect them, and so like the referral, the inviting the visitors, it's fairly easy. I mean, I never had 26. I think the most I had in a day was 4 or 5, but I would usually bring one almost every meeting, every other meeting.
yeah,
When it's just part of your makeup and who you are, and it comes naturally. I mean, we talked about this, like having a script for selling. It just
yeah,
doesn't like. I understand using that to teach because it's like, here's the fundamentals. This is how you need to draw out that information from your prospect to then help them solve a problem and sell. But like when connecting and networking with people comes naturally, you're just like, well, yeah, if I go into this environment, I'll just thrive. And it's like, oh, wait, not everybody in this environment actually really does
right.
harness and hold the fundamentals the same way,
Yeah,
and they're learning, they're coming, they want to learn how to do these things. And then you try to help them. And it's like, but then it's like them reading a script. They're like trying to
yeah,
invite their friends. They're like, will you come to, and
yeah,
I said that like when I was there, I was like, I was on education for a while and I was like about visitors and how to invite them
right.
and how to do this. And they're like, you need to read this. And I like had this whole thing. And I was on the regional team. I was like, your script is stupid. I'm
Yeah,
like, it doesn't work. That's why you're getting the results that you're getting. It's a
yeah,
broken script. It's not
right,
good. They're
right.
like, what do you mean? I'm like, I've never used that script and I have more visitors than anybody.
Yeah.
Change the script.
I didn't even know that there was a script for it.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's just like, hey, why wouldn't people want to come out and expose themselves and their business to all these great other business owners and meet people and have a great lunch? And
Yeah.
yeah, for me, it's just a no-brainer. I think that's just kind of the abundance mentality that I talked about earlier. Like it's just such a no-brainer for people, and that's the energy that I kind of put across, and that's why it's been no problem. But the other con of that, man, is like the thing that I've kind of struggled the last little bit is the reciprocity, right? Like if I'm the one that's constantly bringing in people and no one else is bringing in guests. I'm like, well, I'm just feeding everyone else's businesses, but I'm not really seeing a return on my own. So that's one thing I've kind of been, just kind of wrestling with a little bit, being like, I think everyone needs to kind of level up. And what's that? When one boat rises, the tide, I don't know, you know that saying, the tide,
Oh,
rising tide of
a
everyone.
rising tide lifts all ships.
But it doesn't always, right? Like,
No.
if you're the one producer and no one else is really, reciprocating, then you're kind of like, well, why am I here? In
Yeah.
some ways, right? And we talked about that on our first call.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, and that is one of the struggles, and people don't get that, or you try to, encourage that amongst the other members or whatever in your chapter and do that, and like, where are they struggling? And
Right.
they find they're like, well, hey, my results are going good in BNI, so I don't really need to change, right? Because they're getting the results, and they
Yeah.
don't look at it like the referrals, or like look around and like, is everybody benefiting the same way right now? No. Oh shoot. Well, how could we help them, do that a little differently? And like I said, I love the whole philosophy behind it and what Ivan like set out to do. I think it's a chapter by chapter thing. Some
Yeah.
chapters flourish because they get good members that really harness the legacy that he set out to do. What did you think about a lot of the uh, like the education like, how you have to do
Yeah.
your like
Podcasts. Yeah.
your podcasts and learning and
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing I haven't heard before in a
yeah.
lot of ways, right? Because you and I are students of personal development and just that kind of content. So for me, it's just kind of like, all right, yeah, that's makes sense. It's cool. I think it's a lot more beneficial for people that might never have been exposed to those kind of concepts or kind of mindsets before. But if you have been, the real value is just like the connections with the people. For me, like I love
Mhm.
my group. I was out with them all night last night to our annual dinner. It's a really good group, but I would like to see more business getting done, more people being brought in. And I think I brought in 5 new applicants and chapter members in like under,
Yeah.
8 months or whatever. And I think I brought in probably at least 80 visitors. If I brought in 26 in one, I was like you, I was constantly bringing in 2, 3 every week.
Yeah. Well,
So
that becomes the challenge too, right? Because the chapter starts to become your network, and then you're like, wow, we're doing really good from BNI, but it's like, is it BNI that's doing good, or is it all the people that I already do business with, right?
yeah,
Like, and I mean, I know that it shows up on a stat, but it gives you this false like sense.
yeah,
I track everything. I mean, numbers tell the truth, right? So
yeah,
it's like, if
right,
you look at that and they're not emotional, and you just look at them, you're like, this
yeah,
this tells me the story. Um, I have to say, like, I've read a couple of Ivan's books, but on the education side, like, one of the books that's most of the education that you can read has to be like written by Ivan to meet the stats.
right,
But
yeah.
there's one book which is my all-time favorite book that's not written by Ivan, and it's called The Go-Giver. It's written by Bob Berg and John David Mann. Have
Mhm.
you ever read that book?
I've heard of it, but I don't know if you told me about it or somebody else in B and I told me about it, but I have heard of it and I haven't read it.
Yeah, Bob was on my podcast. So
Okay, yeah, you did
yeah.
you did tell me about that. Yeah, I
Did I
remember.
tell you about that? Yeah. And it was like, he's one of my favorite authors that's still living, right? And yeah, it was really neat to have him on the show and talk, and talk about the book a little bit, and just kind of what's next. But the book and the principles, the reason I asked you that again, like, you should definitely look into it, because I think, again, you won't hear anything in the book that you don't already know, but because it's just a story telling all these
Right.
principles that are about networking, and like, essentially givers gain and things like that, I think, with from the storybook flow, you would resonate. I'd be curious to hear what you think about it, for
Yeah.
sure. Just
I'll check it out. I'll check it
yeah.
out. Yeah, I'm always looking for good material to dive into, especially now that winter's coming and it's hibernation season here in Vancouver for
Oh yeah, yeah. You guys have such a rough winter. I'm like, it's
yeah.
rain.
No,
Big
yeah,
deal.
I don't mind at all. I grew up in Edmonton and I played basketball in Winnipeg and graduated in Montreal. So I paid my dues with my cold winters and happy to have the coastal ones out here
Oh,
now.
I'm surprised, man. It's like November, and like, we're still in t-shirt weather here in
Yeah,
Alberta. So it's like pretty crazy. I mean, I don't know when I'm releasing this, so you'll hear it and be
yeah.
like, what the heck, Luke, there's snow everywhere. But um yeah. So Quinton, where can people find you?
Probably the easiest place is just shoot me a text, 604-401-8040. I'm also the only Quinton Carlin online, QuintonCarlin. Pretty active on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. Got my calendar link in my profile right there. Book a call. Just revamping my website right now. That'll be live in the new year. But yeah, I'm easy to find and happy to help. And the thing that's different as well, like there's a lot of advisors and agents out there that only work with people with like a certain amount of like investable assets. I'm like the mindset, like you said earlier, just volume, like just do the right thing with the right people, not trying to upsell people into anything. Just be like, I actually downsell people. I'm like, hey, I don't want you to put more into this than you are comfortable with. So yeah, just working with people that are just trying to get ahead, just trying to get ahead because I know Canada right now is not the easiest place for that to happen. So
No, no, it's not. Well, Quentin, thank you very
yeah,
much for coming
my
on the
pleasure.
show. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Likewise, and I'll just say too, I've got gold and silver. I've been diversifying. I think the first one I got was in like 2014-ish. So,
Nice.
yeah, yeah, you've got a great service, and it's something that I do tell people that they should have definitely an exposure to because the way inflation and money printing is going, it's hard to find real solid hard assets.
Yeah, I mean you can't beat like it's up silver's up 70% this year so far,
Yeah,
and gold's trending around the same thing even with the recent
yeah,
pullback. So
yeah,
now's a good time to buy. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. To the moon.
to the moon, exactly. Thanks,
Thanks,
Quentin.
thanks everyone.
When a system shakes, paper wealth disappears overnight. But real wealth, it doesn't flinch. Gold and silver have outlasted every currency ever printed. The question isn't if this next storm comes, it's what will you do when it does. Visit learnwealthcycles.com. You too can own what's real.